Long before the Black Death reached Europe, the medieval world was already deeply connected. Trade routes linked Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, carrying goods, people, ideas, and eventually disease. In the 1300s, medieval cities were full of life. Markets were crowded with merchants, animals, food, cloth, and travelers, making daily life busy, social, and closely packed. The disease behind the bubonic plague was caused by a bacterium called Yersinia pestis. Medieval people did not know this, but modern science has helped us understand the true cause of the Black Death. One of the main ways plague spread was through fleas carried by rats. When infected fleas bit animals and then humans, the disease could move from animal populations into human communities. Trade helped disease travel across continents. Caravans crossed land routes and ships crossed seas, creating a network that allowed the plague to move from region to region. One important point in this story was Kaffa, a port city in Crimea. During conflict and siege, disease and trade became linked, helping the plague move farther west. Merchant ships sailed across the Mediterranean, carrying valuable goods and many travelers. Hidden among cargo and ship life, rats and fleas could also travel from port to port. When the plague reached European ports, most people had no idea what was arriving with the ships. Trade continued, cargo was unloaded, and the danger quietly entered the city. Inside medieval towns, rats moved easily through alleys, warehouses, and grain stores. In crowded places with poor sanitation, this created perfect conditions for disease to spread. At first, the symptoms were confusing and frightening. People developed fever, weakness, chills, and painful swelling, while families and physicians struggled to understand what was happening. Soon the plague spread rapidly through entire streets and neighborhoods. Fear grew as people saw sickness around them, shops closed, and daily life began to fall apart. Doctors and healers tried to make sense of the disease using the knowledge they had. They studied herbs, books, and simple remedies, but they did not yet understand bacteria or infection the way we do today. The plague doctor became one of the most famous symbols linked to the era. The beaked mask and protective clothing reflected an attempt to face danger, even when medical knowledge was limited. People searched desperately for answers. Some turned to prayer, some trusted astrology, some used herbal remedies, and many believed the plague was a punishment or a sign from above. To slow the disease, some places used quarantine and isolation. Gates were watched, houses were marked, and infected people were separated, showing early ideas of public health control. Across Europe, the Black Death spread from city to city and region to region. Trade routes and human movement turned a local outbreak into a continental disaster. Places that were once noisy and full of trade became silent. Streets emptied, market stalls were abandoned, and entire communities were left changed by loss. The plague also transformed society by reducing the number of workers. Farms, workshops, and noble estates all struggled because there were suddenly far fewer laborers. Because labor became scarce, surviving workers gained more importance. Many could demand better wages, more land, and greater freedom, shifting the balance of power in society. Religion was deeply affected by the Black Death. Many people turned to prayer and the church for comfort, while others began to question old beliefs in the face of so much suffering. Fear did not only create sorrow, it also created blame. During the plague, some people scapegoated outsiders and vulnerable groups, reminding us how prejudice can grow in times of crisis. The scale of death changed burial practices as well. Communities created memorial spaces, used candles and crosses, and tried to honor the dead with dignity, even during overwhelming loss. Over time, Europe slowly began to rebuild. Markets reopened, farms returned to work, and cities recovered, showing that even after great tragedy, societies can begin again. The long-term effects of the bubonic plague were enormous. It changed medicine, labor, cities, public health, and power structures, leaving a legacy that shaped the future of Europe. Today, modern scientists study plague history through records, maps, and biology. By combining history and science, we can better understand pandemics and learn lessons that still matter now. The Black Death changed the world, and history helps us understand why. It reminds us that disease can transform society, but it also shows how people adapt, rebuild, and learn. Like, subscribe, and keep exploring with Neurocosmo. Join us for more powerful stories from history, science, finance, and the future.